welcome one more time, and this time to the second episode in our trilogy on attracting, inspiring, retaining Gen Z. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Sujaya Banerjee, and I'm the CEO of Capstone People Consulting. I'm also the founder of the Learning and OT Roundtable, one of the most prominent forums for learning and OT professionals. And I'm really excited that so many of you have joined in to be able to join us on this conversation on attracting, inspiring, retaining Gen Z. In the second part of the trilogy, we're looking at focus, engagement, and opportunity for impact. We spoke on the first one on the opportunity of work and reinventing the space of work and the entry-level ecosystem for Gen Z talent. Before we get down to the conversation that you've all joined in for, let me take a couple of minutes to be able to introduce you to Capstone and Capstone DI. Our conversation today, attracting, inspiring, retaining Gen Z, focus, engagement, opportunity for impact. And joining me on the conversation today, I'm really excited to have Dr. Akhil Besrai. Doesn't need an introduction. He's a veteran HR professional, feels very, very strongly around Gen Z and young talent. Is a great advocate for modern organizations and for organizations reinventing their culture for the 21st century. So really excited to have him here. We also have Dr. Himanshu Dhaka of L&T. He's the DGM L&D and corporate HR at L&T, doing some really stellar work within the very prestigious L&T organization. We'll talk to both of them in a bit. Give me a couple of minutes to introduce you to the Capstone organization, almost a pioneering organization with the Women Leadership Forum of Asia, which we created in 2010. And I must say, we've been, right at the forefront, inspiring other organizations to become equal opportunities employers. I was at that time with SR, and we did some really outstanding work, inspiring and showing the way to so many other organizations on how they could create equal opportunities workplaces and start integrating diversity and inclusion in the rhythm of their cultures. And so we've always looked at DI as culture building in the context of driving change within organizations and preparing it for diversity of thought, diversity in terms of people, demographic diversity within the organization, and most of all, creating very meaningful, positive cultures of inclusion. Move forward. I'll talk a bit about Capstone for those of you, who don't know about Capstone yet. We work in the space of workplace culture and change, and we help organizations, sustain high performance cultures and create new age workplaces for the 21st century. We work with over 130 organizations as we speak. And so across the world, basically, very prominently in India, but as much in the UK, in the EU, in the US, very prominently in South Africa. High performance culture, strategic change management, leadership capability, diversity, equity, inclusion, contemporary talent architectures, future of work, mindsets and cultures. That's the kind of work that we do. Our brands are Capstone People Consulting, which normally is at the strategic end with leadership and leadership capability building. We partner as global educators with Duke Corporate Education, that's ranked #1 globally in the area of executive education. Our Pinnacle Learning brand works very extensively across early and mid-career capability building and change management and workplace culture. The LNOD communities is what we've rechristened. The LNOD Roundtable is now an online platform. We work very closely with Leogal Production to be able to bring in a lot of innovative platforms of learning. So Duke C, our association with Duke C, which has been ranked #1 globally. We're very excited with the work that we do globally with them, with CXOs teams and CEOs across the world. Most of our work through Duke has rated as 5 out of 5, has a net promoter score of 100. So we're very excited of the quality of the work that we're doing globally across organizations, leading a lot of business immersions to India, leading a lot of business immersions out of India to different countries. So, those of you interested in this should reach out so that we can tell you more. We have some awards and accolades to show for the quality of work that we do, including the influencing of our social contribution through the LNOD Roundtable, the Women Leadership Forum of Asia, and the DI work that we do through Capstone People Consulting. These are some of the programs that we offer through the Capstone DI practice, which we've now basically organized as a separate practice of Capstone. This is doing some really outstanding work across diversities. You can see a lot of the programs being, you broadcasted here, but I have to say that our approach is basically helping organizations drive change, building cultures of DI. We do a very popular DI literacy program across organizations. We are great advocates of collaboration across genders, huge advocates of women acting as diversity partners for women inside organizations, and are very strong supporters of all kinds of diversities. Our work is very distinctive in the specially abled and the neurodiversity spaces. We've done a lot of work around age diversity. We've done a lot of work around bringing veterans to organizations. Our work around LGBTQIA is pioneering in that we've been perhaps the earliest people to talk about this and use a lot of creative platforms to be able to make the point. We are huge advocates of socio-cognitive diversity and have some really extensive, body of work, particularly in the inclusion space. So that's how you can reach us, Capstone DI or Capstone People Consulting. Very excited to have all of you on board today and come back to the topic on hand. So we will be bringing in ageism as our topic next, but at this time we're focusing on Gen Z. I think this whole business of being able to attract and retain Gen Z has become a bit of an enigma across organizations. And it's not just because we saw the Great Resignation or we saw the quiet resignation. There have been all kinds of phenomena that we're seeing unfold in terms of, quietly letting go of the opportunity you have, maybe looking for something else. Very interested, whole generation very interested in entrepreneurial opportunities. And it's very clear that they don't want the slow climb or the slow stairway to heaven, which we've created within organizations with tall hierarchies. So a bit of an impatience there in terms of wanting to get to the next levels. Don't believe they require that long to be able to learn the job, to be able to move up. And more importantly, a bit of a disconnect between what they've learned and what they're experiencing in the workplace, which is not uncommon. I don't think that is something that we've not heard before. But here is a group of people who react to what they experience as the job as compared to what they believe they had understood the job was. And the reaction is normally to say, I don't know what I'm doing next, but I'm not doing this now. And I think having that courage to be able to make choices, which obviously comes in a way from the affordability and support that they're experiencing from parents and other significant authority figures in their lives. But we're clearly talking to about digital natives. This is a group of people who are born between 1996 and 2012, have always known technology. So they're children of technology. They're also children of the knowledge era. Have clearly, many of them had a kind of a bit of a disruption around the pandemic time in terms of not having experienced a very structured education process as a result of the pandemic. And so before coming into the workplace, some of them have not experienced a consistent kind of an ecosystem around education. Notwithstanding that, what is interesting is the power of choice. The fact that if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, then I will give this up till I find something else. I don't know whether past generations associated a lot of enjoyment with their careers, but they learned how to enjoy it over a period of time and they gave it a little more time. And I think a bit of impatience there that a lot of organizations experience. Most leaders I talk to are nonplussed with what happened. They don't quite understand why they're leaving. And, we're looking at anything between 30 to 40% attrition at entry levels. In some organizations, it's as alarming as 50% of the intake that they have, where, particularly members of this generation are easily leaving the workforce. Sometimes they don't know in search of what. but perhaps another place where they enjoy the culture, where they enjoy respect, where they enjoy attention in their own development, where someone is investing time to be able to nurture them. And so two or three phenomena associated with this group, which is the reason why we started talking about, retention and inspiration and attraction and all of that to do with this generation, is because most people's experiences with this generation are anecdotal to their own industry or to their own where they're poised, and or it's their own children. So there is limited research available within India. There are broad perspectives, however, and there are more market researchers who've invested time to be able to figure out this generation. And I think more recently we can see some more structured research insights coming through, but they're almost repetitive. 4 or 5 phenomena, which is do not know how to live in an era that is not digital. So have always known technology generation as compared to the millennials who have basically also adopted technology much later in their lives, but have are also basically very comfortable with technology. But this group born into technology, much like Gen Alpha, which has seen even more advanced technology, including AI. So technology being one very significant determinant. Two is very naturally globalized generation. And one market researcher points out so astutely that this is one generation that does not benchmark vertically like past generations. So all generations were different versions of the past generations. This generation is not, because it makes an added effort to horizontally benchmark with their own kind, which means they are linked and would like to learn from and are trying to make sense of this world together with their own kind of generation. So this is very distinctive, which is the reason why I think there's a bit of a struggle to make meaning out of what their preferences are, what their worldview is, what indeed their lens is. Are very socially woke, are known to be caring deeply about the environment, about the climate, about equality, react strongly to any form of unfairness and so on. So are known to be woke in that sense. This is a generation that when it comes to the workplace does not hesitate to let the employer know that they, like basically no hard feelings, but I didn't quite like the experience, so I'm out of here. Most employers are surprised or shocked because they've made huge efforts to go and bring these people in. There's often an elaborate induction program and an orientation, all of that. And at the end of that, to be told that, I didn't quite like this, I want to be able to move out in sometimes in the early days and sometimes somewhere during the first year. I think a lot of them in exit interviews want to play it safe and not share too much, but in one-on-one conversations and some of the experiences and anecdotes that I've been able to string together, it appears that what they're reacting to the most is the ecosystem of work, which really means that what they need to do to spend the entire day is not enjoyable. That the kind of regimentation that they experience in the workplace is very disturbing, which is high degree of emphasis on obedience over competence or outcome. So I think this kind of a structured environment, which is very shocking, and how they need to sort of spend their entire day as compared to when they were students. I think that transition of campus to corporates, perhaps in a way, is not about the organizations not enabling it. I think it's about also emotionally and otherwise settling down to this new experience, which they often are left on their own on. Also feeling engaged, deeply engaged with the job given on hand. And I think the quality of those jobs is what we were talking about the last time, which is that we've left most of those ecosystems like the way they used to be 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And there hasn't been a lot of innovation in that space to be able to say, if we are bringing in children of the knowledge era, how can we create jobs which are more meaningful, which are more challenging, which are more interesting and engaging? I think it's pretty much, this is what we have. This is our lot. We hired you. We're paying you market salary. Now do this job. And I think the step back that we were asking for the last time is how much of effort we're making to be able to make sure that because the nature of the candidates are different, that we recurate these jobs or give them certain exposures, or are at least mindful and sensitized to the fact that they come from an ecosystem which is very different. They have access to technology. They have learned so much. The children of the knowledge eras, it's not like conceptually or otherwise, They can't go up a steep learning curve, whether we are challenging them enough, whether if we've left them with grunge, repetitive jobs, whether they're going to find it exciting enough to be able to make a career out of it. And of course, the grand disconnect between what I thought the job was and what the job really is, and whether someone's hand-holding them through that. This is a group of people that is very validated, have a lot of attention from their parents and from the others, and therefore coming into a workplace and just becoming one of many, particularly for large organizations, can sometimes be a really big challenge. There was a Harvard article called "Connect and Then Lead." It can't be, this title can't be, more accurate and more astute in the context of what we believe this group really needs, which is really a high connection first in understanding them individually and figuring ways of being able to integrate them and get their interest and get their engagement and get their excitement and passion going so that we basically get them to stay to contribute. So creating these environments for contribution and voice are another very important, compelling requirement, which we talked about the last time when we spoke about work. I'm going to pause here. Both of you are, very experienced, astute. I know you've had lots of informal conversations. I'm going to start with Himanshu here. Himanshu has a large organization. L&T's intake of a large number of people at the entry level has been a regular feature. I'm sure you have your own insights internally because you don't just have the onus of bringing in people in different kinds of jobs. If they came in into the traditional L&T construction company, which itself are all modernizing and are very different from and have a lot of practices which are very interesting, huge orientation towards learning for people inside the organization. So many facets which are very interesting. Having said that, the nature of the work itself, right, is very compelling. It's physically taxing. How are you getting your arms around being able to attract, create focus, creating opportunities for contribution, especially among the Gen Z that you're hiring in such large numbers?
That's a $1 million question, isn't it?
Hmm.
And on organizations such as L&T, important thing is that we recognize it, first of all.
Hmm.
We know,
Hmm.
and it's not an easy thing to recognize because uh, multi-generations are working in the company,
Yeah.
just like any big company. And one would find that we were here. I mean, if you ask any person who was working here for a tenure of 15 years, 20 years, 30 years,
Hmm.
we are here. We know this is how this place has been working.
Hmm.
And suddenly, when someone new comes in, they are just unable to understand what happens
Hmm.
because in their mind, they have not been exposed to the life or challenges that the Gen Z are coming from.
Hmm.
Now, what is it that I really like the part where you spoke about uh, education happening during the pandemic. At that time, I was teaching at Tata Institute of Social
Hmm.
Sciences,
Hmm.
and the classes were happening online, robbing all the students of the opportunity to actually experience a college environment, to be there, to mingle, to collaborate,
Yeah.
to be able to work together on assignments, case studies, to be able to experience the pressure. Now, what
Yes.
is happening is that the disconnect. So they themselves are in their own home environment,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then tuning in, tuning out. So I mean, we in within organizations, even if we sit and we try to understand, just looking at this one example makes it very difficult to understand where all of our new generation people are coming from. Perhaps one of the things that we try to do, and we have been focusing a lot, is focus on understanding the
Hmm.
new generation.
Hmm.
A lot of initiatives we do in trying to set up some opportunity for communication. We do, uh, it's like doing initiatives where uh, the mid-senior people could understand that who are Gen Z, where are they coming from, and
Hmm.
what do they want. And if
Hmm.
I'm asking them something which I feel is legitimate, how are they interpreting it? I am not able to understand how they're interpreting it. This
Hmm.
is the first and foremost problem that we experienced. And
Hmm.
uh, after these initiatives, whoever is attending them, they kind of come a little more enlightened and they feel that Now we understand how the new generation is interpreting whenever we are talking to them.
Yeah.
But I don't know how else to speak, because my own the way I've been working, this was never considered to be abnormal or something outrageous. Suddenly, if I say something, no, I need this done now, or it was supposed to be done yesterday. It's a very way of speaking within the organization. So that is one part of the story. The second part of the story is that yes, the organizations are the way they are from quite some time. So when the new people are coming in, how do we prepare them for joining the workforce in a way that they also understand that how if I could use the language of transaction analysis,
Hmm.
that how do you actually think like an adult. So
Hmm.
if it's both ways, both for
Yeah.
mid senior level and also for young generation. So rather than trying to establish a parent child relationship, now this Gen Z is not willing to be a child.
Hmm.
They have childlike authenticity and
Hmm.
curiosity, but they
Hmm.
don't like to be told
Hmm.
in a stern way. What they
Hmm.
would rather want is that, so a best course of action then comes in, let us come to the adult. I assume that you are a responsible adult. Let me also be a responsible adult, and let us have a conversation. There's a
Hmm.
lot for you to learn. There's a lot I can offer, but let us have some amount of accountability.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that is how, at least here sitting where I am sitting, this is how we are looking at this conversation with Gen Z.
Yeah, yeah, lovely, lovely. I think, bang on, and I would tend to agree with you that I think very interested in being treated like adults, and very interested in not being dealt with the schoolmaster tonality, you know, and want to be treated and being told even if there is a mistake or an error or something that they could do better, or they're receiving feedback, that they're treated as adults in that equation so that they can basically feel validated about being in the adult world and being employees, and people who have come in to contribute and to earn a living in the business world. So I think that is a huge requirement, and I'm glad you're talking about transaction analysis in the context of Gen Z. I would say the same holds true for anyone who comes to the
Yeah,
workplace. But I think particularly for this group, I think this would play a very significant role. And I'm glad you've touched upon what is your tonality, and therefore what should be your outlook if you're dealing with this community, which is primarily that you're adults and we're going to treat you like adults, and therefore we're going to give you responsibility like adults, we're going to give you feedback like adults, and you should meet us more than halfway to tell us what you need to tell us, so that even you're not coming from child, because in this
absolutely.
in this context, yeah, the child can be very manipulative. So it's better that the
Yeah,
child also learns how to be able to start dealing with you and respond from adults, so that there are adult transactions which are more likely to succeed. So thank you for saying that. I'm going to come to Dr. Akil Basrai, and I know you feel strongly about this group. Tell me what your own observations are, and what are you seeing organizations do to be able to create this focus and opportunity for impact that Gen Zs can create, so that they can you can extend the longevity of their careers within the workplace.
Well, thank you, Sujaya, for inviting me. I can see some familiar names, Priyanka and others. Uh, I like the way Ivanshu started by putting this adult to adult conversation.
Hmm.
I think one has to make sure there is no divide
Hmm.
between Gen Z and other gens, etc., in the organization,
Hmm.
and we treat them especially with kid gloves and like a expensive china. The idea is to be very functional.
Hmm.
The idea is to talk their language. So even this language of adult, child, etc., goes over somebody's head and they feel very insulted. I think
Hmm.
some of us have to understand, like Jimangshu mentioned earlier, that what makes them tick.
Hmm.
And to make them tick, in my opinion, Sudhya, you got to be with them,
Hmm.
not in words, but in action.
Hmm.
Now, I'll take you an example. We are in 2024. 2006, I was heading HR for IBM, and one of
Hmm.
our very senior manager, business manager, came up with an idea to introduce Second Life.
Hmm. Hmm.
Remember, any of
Hmm.
those on the call may not even remember or know about Second Life way back in 2006. Which is how many years, Vanshu? 16
About
and
18 years.
yeah,
18
Yeah,
years.
18 years. Yeah.
Now, that time, IBM was talking about Second Life.
Hmm.
And as an edge, this gentleman who came, this senior manager who came to me with an idea to buy an island, virtual island, and pay real money. Many of us sort of smirked it as a fad. You have to really spend dollars to buy an island which doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and have a session with employees. But that was a backward thinking. How can you spend money on something that doesn't exist? And Second Life and Avatar, there is a time when Avatar came in the picture. This person took me aside on a couple of occasions, explained to me what it does. I was excited that if you can reach large number of employees, and we were growing at that time almost 1,900 to 2,000 people each month, Eddie. I saw something that would excite the youngsters that we were hiring. So we took it to focus group. There was so much of excitement. So finally, I dipped into my budget and supported the proposal. We were so surprised at the reaction. We did induction program. We actually had Sam Pamisano, the chairman, that time join one of the sessions virtually. Now, what I'm mentioning is that when your action shows that you are not an alien to the new world, that you are as savvy as anybody else, you get acceptance as a serious manager or a serious leader. Gen Z is no different. I was Gen Z, you were Gen Z at one time, so was Himanshu. And we were all rebels. And I remember all my stubbornness and rebellious nature. Sometimes I rebel without a cause. But things are changing now. This generation has a cause, and they're really around cause. So instead of organizations pampering them with higher bonuses and higher rewards and holidays in Maldives, idea is to understand what ticks them and excites them. And two things that strike to me, Sudhaya, is that they're looking for purpose. They're looking for a cause. Cause can be both individual cause or an organization is committed to a cause. And that's what binds them. Extra money, etc., comes to them with a one interview over lunch break and they get a 20% increase, 25, 30% increase. That's not the incentive. So some of us in leadership positions have to understand that the old method of induction, hype, and elephant garlanding you when you come to the office, etc., is a passing. Those are nice events. They don't impact any employees to retain, join and remain in the company. The idea of compensation and rewards, etc., is also to some extent not that much popular as the purpose and cause that you can attach to them. If I can give an example, quick one, I was heading HR for Shell Malaysia, and in 2007 we had tsunami, especially the northern part of Malaysia, like Penang, etc., were badly affected. Shell was committed, socially committed organization, had a lot of funding to do. That was not a constraint. But what we did in HR was arrange for employees to go and work themselves in Penang from Kuala Lumpur 5 hours drive. Now, when we put this proposal up, we were absolutely amazed at the number of people who volunteered to come and physically do work in the tsunami-affected area, including their families also. We realized that working for about 5 to 6 weeks in that condition, not easy. The employee satisfaction levels went up by 2.2%. Not that we were looking for increase in employee satisfaction, we're doing the right thing. And most of these youngsters related that we are working for a cause. We're working for an organization which is committed to a social cause. And that the most immediate cause was tsunami rehabilitation. And writing a check is very easy. We didn't only write a check. We asked employees, come and dirty your hands. We give them gumboots, we give them gloves, and with your hands. Many people laughed at the idea that, we can hire contractors to do that. We can hire machines to do that. That was not it. The idea that the HR team came up with was somewhat clicked with the people, that we will go and work with our hands and rehabilitate them. So I think we have to understand what the language is changing, what the affiliation points are changing. It's not the old affiliation that if you worked in Unilever, you're a lifer. If you worked in ITC, you're a lifer. If you worked in XYZ company, you are a lifer. Nobody's looking for a lifer job anymore. Nor are the organizations expecting you to be an employee, to be a lifer. Idea to retain them for long enough to get the maximum benefit out of their experience and knowledge and even naivety.
Right. So I think what I hear you say, in your narrative, Akil, is that you're saying that young people look for a cause, people look for a purpose, and that was true for even past generation. And that, if you give them some hands-on responsibility to make a difference and give them, chance to contribute in a significant way, then they will rise up to the occasion. We have exaggerated their need for resources and their need to want to be pampered and the rest of that. The idea is to give them a meaningful context to contribute. And if you do that, then you will get them to be able to respond like
Even if they're
indeed you
not
have
doing
seen.
Sujaya, if they're
Uh,
not doing it their own hands or it's not possible, but
yes.
they identify themselves, this my organization is doing something for a cause, and I feel proud of that cause.
Right,
It
right.
could be even a contribution. It
Yeah.
doesn't, everybody has to. So if you're working with Mother Teresa's organization and giving a big contribution like Hindustan Liver did, where I spent half my career,
Yeah.
there was a whole series of activities that Hindustan Liver was doing for Mother Teresa,
Yeah.
providing them a home in Bombay.
Yes.
That resonates more with today's generation
Yes.
than it did with earlier generation.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I see that as fair. Having said that, tsunami is a one in a lifetime kind of experience, and thank God for that. And you're not going to constantly be surrounded by those kind of occasions. I think it's important to understand in the rhythm of everyday working within the organization, how do we still challenge them? How do we still give them purpose? How do we still give them an opportunity to be able to contribute? So I'm just going to turn this over to Himanshu. Himanshu, especially given that organizations are still having tall hierarchies. There is still, by and large, still our macro ethos is power centric. We invariably have high level of comfort with disparity of powers in a workplace. And there's no hiding from the fact that there will be command and control styles that still exist inside workplaces. My question to you is, how do we still create this opportunity for contribution? Because if you look at tall hierarchies, typically the entry level jobs, and I know that your response to that, I'm going to pepper that response with the point you made on adulthood and treating people as adults. But I'm still going to bring in the hierarchy and the restrictiveness of contribution at entry levels. Typically our lens at entry levels is to try and find people who are obedient to instructions, are people who are diligent and hardworking. And while all these are timeless qualities, I want to know, how can organizations navigate this to give Gen Z and other entry-level talent early opportunities for contribution?
I think I liked what Dr. Akil was saying. Even we were in our own times, we were looking for a meaningful work. What that meaningful is, we were not very sure. I was not sure. I also drifted a lot in my career. And I remember one of my previous bosses, when I was very young, in my 20s, late 20s, he said, Himanshu, you are not 21, 22 anymore. At some point, you need to decide what is it that you want to do. But at that time, thankfully, at that time, after some thinking, I was thinking that, do I really want to sit in my boss's cabin?
Yeah, yeah.
And I sat with that question for 8 months, and I said, no, I don't. I just want probably more money out of this job or do something which I love. And it took me almost 8-9 months to gather the courage and come out and say, okay, I want to do a PhD on spirituality, mindfulness, OB, and so on. And my own path. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we have to find our own path as individuals. And I don't think organizations have much control over that. Earlier, such cases may not be as usual as they are now, because now if you ask Gen Z that organization is giving you such and such salary, they'll say, okay, you are giving me salary, but have you bought me or what? I'm still I'm not a superficial person here. I'm a real person trying to engage in a work with your company is doing something meaningful for the organization, and I want to do a little bit more than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So somewhere that and this is exactly I don't have a solution here. I'm just saying that this is exactly the situation where the new people joining the company, they want to see results very quickly. And the organization has a rhythm of working. They every day they have lots of fire to extinguish, lot of important and meaning, small work, big work, everything, everyone is doing it.
Mm.
Even as big as maybe a senior person would be making a PPT someday. He doesn't
Mm.
see that, he or she doesn't see that this is a very small work.
Mm.
But I think there is what is required is the way we engage on a daily basis
Mm.
with our younger colleagues.
Mm.
It's about they do not understand it yet.
Mm.
Why? What is it that they are doing? We feel that it is too much of an effort to. We have an expectation. Just coming out from that place of authenticity and being able to have a clear conversation, because to be honest, we are not tackling a new problem. We still had that job characteristic model which was supposed
Mm.
to make our jobs very high in motivation. It should
Mm.
provide meaning, it should provide you
Mm.
know it should provide some feedback, autonomy.
Yeah.
I think our youngsters are wanting the same thing, and probably it is a call to the organizations to start thinking that probably it's a good opportunity to move up with the times and uh, redesign jobs in a way,
Mm.
and the way we work, which provides meaning and motivation to everyone.
Right.
So I guess it's just a matter of that critical mass
Yeah.
of people
Yeah.
coming into the workforce
Yeah.
and really changing the workplace for good.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. And I think I want to pick on that point because we spoke about wanting to experience a more technology savvy workplace, wanting to see more agility in the workplace on how things happen, to your point on impatience to see outcomes of what it is that I'm actually contributing to and working on. I think this is possibly the generation that has called out the loudest on negative emotions at work in terms of mental health and so on. Have called out for flexibility at work, which the pandemic kind of set a rhythm to. Otherwise, I think the people who are shouting out loud for flexibility were constantly seen as looking to perhaps do less and have more free time on hand. And I think this is while we've already set that into motion, this is a generation which continues to hold the flag on flexibility being able to not be a barrier to productivity, and that organizations must experiment on how it is that they can get that balance right. And to your point, that everything that they're actually asking for, whether lesser power distance, more investment in their learning, more opportunity for contribution, greater focus on mental health, greater focus on flexibility, is actually making the workplace more compassionate. Would both of you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think I also want to talk about the hierarchy which you mentioned.
Hmm.
Uh, Even in my home, there is a
Hmm.
hierarchy. My
Hmm.
father is still the
Hmm.
top person in the
Yeah.
house,
Hmm.
and uh, hierarchy doesn't mean uh, autocracy or some kind of
Hmm.
pushiness.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that there is a structure.
Yeah.
At the same time, the way we interact within that structure,
Hmm.
that can change. For
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
if he has a birthday and we want to celebrate his birthday, he may say, "No, I don't want to celebrate."
Hmm.
But probably just having a conversation, maybe we just want to use this event to have a good time. I mean,
Yeah.
we want to celebrate this with you. It's
Yeah.
not just about you; it's also
Yeah.
about us, right? We've
Yeah.
been a part of
Yeah.
the family.
Yeah.
So immediately that change in thought, okay, oh yes, I didn't think it that way. I was thinking it is only about me. No, it's not
Yeah.
about you. You are a
Yeah.
part of a system, and this
Yeah.
is a family. Similarly,
Yeah.
uh, within hierarchies, at times what happens, leaders, they feel that, I'm out of the system.
Yeah.
You are the system, and I'm
Yeah.
someone who is managing the system.
Yeah.
And somewhere this conversation is necessary where they realize, oh, actually I'm also a part of the system,
Yeah.
and I need to equally participate in this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm so glad you're raising this because you don't have to dismantle the hierarchy. You need to manifest the hierarchy differently. And when you shift
Absolutely.
your perspectives around how you're interpreting the hierarchy, then it's not such a draconian thing. Hierarchies don't have to become draconian. It's about how you manifest the hierarchy in the power distance. And if you're utilizing that power distance meaningfully, I mean, there's so many positives to a hierarchy. So I'm not disbanding that or suggesting that everybody dismantles it. You'll have chaos if you don't have a hierarchy. But the point is that, if you have too tall hierarchies, then it can create a distance. And I'm saying, to your point, if you manifest it differently, it doesn't have to manifest the distance. You can become part of it and contribute to what the system is contributing and not have to be exclusive to the system. So it's about organization. But the fact that it's making us think about all this, and the fact that it's making us go back to the drawing board to say, how do we want to manifest this differently? I think that is how this generation is turning into the catalyst for the 21st century. And I think we must recognize that, they're making organizations become more modern, go back to the drawing board, rethink things. And if it wasn't for them, you'd perhaps not be thinking so hard. And, they've paid a price by moving out of the work situation, moving out of organizations because they're not able to bear with what it is that they're experiencing every day. And I'm glad it's brought in the humility for all of us to be able to go back to the drawing board. We would not be having the conversation here today if we weren't interested in reconstructing the space and looking at how it is that we can meet more than halfway to be able to make this happen. One of the things that I
Yeah,
feel
if I can
strongly about. Yeah,
actually, I can comment on your term compassionate.
yeah.
I wouldn't use that term very frequently. It's very paternalistic, very condescending.
Compassion.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
In
That's
interpretation,
surprising.
my interpretation.
Yeah. Compassion is just
my
being fair
interpretation,
unto another. I don't know if
you are
you've
compassionate to me. You are doing me a great favor, and you are making me feel as if I need more help than I get. Sometimes that is interpretation. So what I would look at, if you look at one word that resonates with today's generation, freedom. And the
Yeah,
second
and
fear and
Akhil,
love.
I'm going to argue with you. Freedom and compassion can coexist. Compassion is
Yeah, it can.
fairness. It's just simply being fair to the other. It's not about
being kind, being fair, and understanding others. So it's a good word, but sometimes it is misunderstood as, are you doing a big favor? Are you being... But if you look at the word freedom, how it resonates with today, it's not a new word. We wanted freedom at a particular age, and we thought we needed more freedom than that was given to us for whatever good reason. Same thing happens in organization. But to recognize that freedom and find an outlet, it's like a pressure cooker. Let me give an anecdote. 2 decades ago, we experimented. I was heading HR for Motorola then, and we were hiring these youngsters. Of course, they were age-wise much older. And that type of skill that we needed in Motorola was very high tech and state of the art. So a lot of youngsters came in, and when this youngsters generation starts working with the generation which is used to hierarchy, respect for the seniors, respect for the elders, and like Himanshu gave an example, if the father has said no, maybe we should not do it. That was a compliance and respect that was expected out of the generation. Now, while talking to small groups of people across Asia Pacific, I realized one thing: they needed outlet, escape. And I wouldn't say escape, I would use space for expression. Can I express myself wherever I am in the pecking order? Do I have to really go through these bureaucratic levels, and by the time I'm heard or even seen? We decided that a lot of expression was coming out of new technology that they were working with. Even had different ideas, like what 3M did with Post-it. And we managed to get a fund, a pretty good, respectable fund, and we called it Sunk Fund. So all this finance guy would not bother us with all sorts of explanation as to where we spend that money. That money is spent. So we actually managed to have the rules tweaked a little bit to say freedom to spend that money. Now we selected 3 employees, some new joiners, 1 senior guy, and like you mentioned, that sometimes hierarchy is beneficial. It's not always junk. Don't throw the baby with the bathwater. And these 3 people would decide on a project proposal for any employee who wanted to experiment with something and needed money. What we do with the result was not known, but what type of projects would come up. But in one of the country council meeting in Korea, particularly, and in Japan, we realized that the senior managers were actually upset with this whole idea of agile. They said that we are actually promoting competition within, supporting competition, which will harm us. Now, some felt, it's not harmful, we'll use that competition. See the diversity among the senior people itself.
Hmm.
Now here the youngsters wanting to express. All we were doing was provide them the platform,
Hmm.
and we actually managed to ram it through.
Hmm.
Some of the projects that worked on was so good that I
Hmm.
remember 2, 3 years later, and that happened in India. One team in Bangalore, 2 people came up with an idea that with this idea we can start our own.
Hmm.
Startup was not a norm 22 decades ago,
Hmm.
and we were scratching our head that are we really creating attrition?
Hmm.
Are we really hitting our own
Yeah.
foot? But bigger picture was that we were giving them expression, and this was
That's
known.
right.
This company listens to me,
Yeah.
this freehand,
Yeah.
even competing. So we allowed them to start, but we did one thing which
Yeah.
commercial was smart, that you will be tied, we'll have the choice of first choice to buy your product.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the common practice, Akhil, now. It's across organizations. These
Now,
are
yes.
incubators which are
You
funded
look
by the
at two
company.
decades ago, when we had
Yeah.
not had the hype of Gen Z or whatever Z
Yeah.
that time, listening to them. I think
Yeah.
the point I'm making is not we did a great thing, change the world. The
Yeah.
idea is to listen to them and have the
Yeah.
courage of conviction to push
Yeah.
their.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not easy with
And
line
and also
managers.
and also the freedom to express, to innovate, to come up with new ideas, which is something that the
And we
organization
will
is
fund it.
supporting. Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
sunk fund
Yeah.
became a joke. They're
Yeah.
actually disappointed because how many results will come out? But we were very surprised that
Yeah.
some countries resolve issues by asking those people to sell their ideas to them.
Yeah.
Sell their
Yeah.
ideas. Now,
Yeah.
this is contrary to our
Yeah.
thinking. Oh, you are our proprietary.
Yeah.
We own you because, like Manshu said, when we pay you, we
Yeah.
own you. No,
Yeah.
no. You have your
Yeah.
freedom. You enjoy yourself. Have the freedom. Forget about your hierarchy above you. And we will not do away with that hierarchy because
Hmm.
it's a sensible thing to do. We are running a company, not a circus.
Hmm.
And
Okay, so no, it's a good point, and I think that the fact that they have ideas and they could solve problems differently and they can creatively solve problems, bring a new perspective inside organization. Why are we bringing in and infusing in young talent if we don't want to hear their perspective? So I think all of that, and I'm glad that you're bringing in some of these things that you tried years ago, which you believe can easily be, and then somehow forgotten down the line. Although I must say these incubators is a very common opportunity that is
now,
given to young people. Yeah, I'm just going to turn over to some of the comments that we've been getting, and I wanted to react to your point on rather than compassion. And I'm sure you have some misunderstanding with the word compassion because it's a very powerful one for the 21st century. But nevertheless, it's your point of view, and you brought in the part on freedom. My reaction to the piece on freedom can be freedom is a flip side, or freedom unbridled can be chaos. And I think we have a point here which Sahil is making, which is he's asking freedom gives you the power, can be misused in the hands of the holder. Compassion doesn't empower, can be misused in the hands of the giver. So so he's brought in our conversation around compassion and
I don't
freedom.
know
They
if
have nothing to
technically,
do.
is it
They
possible
have
to
nothing to
subscribe
do. Actually,
to that?
they're highly related. 1 minute. I think they're highly related because when you give people freedom, you're giving it to them, and if you give it to them in the measure, and to his point that it can create chaos, but if it doesn't have a framework. But if you do actually give people the empowerment and the support, it is actually an action of compassion. To his point that compassion doesn't empower, right? He's actually brought in the perspective on this compassion actually, doesn't empower and can be misused in the hands of the giver. I don't know whether it can be misused in the hands of the giver, Sahil, but it can be misused in the hand of the receiver, because the giver may be giving the compassion with good intention, the receiver may misuse it. So I think it's the other way around, actually. So in a way, partly disagree, but nice caution around bridle-less or framework-less empowerment. We also have, to your point that you made on the tsunami and the fact that people can contribute to real causes, and that can be such a significant part of how you can create this rhythm for contribution in an organization. There's someone here who's posted our clients from NGO and corporate sector have reaped benefits of volunteering from Samarthanam Trust in Bangalore, and I volunteer in Mumbai, to the SR group and also to Roche India. So for those who want to take note of it, this is Samarthanam Trust in Bangalore, and I volunteer in Mumbai. I think we have Umesh here, who's also making a point. He's the head of placements and corporate resources at the CRC and CDC University. He says you're all quite right. Basically, this generation is not necessarily bound by age, but by behavior, particularly their use of technology and digital media. So interesting observation, Umesh, to be able to say it's not really age but behavior, and you're right, and you're saying they're not necessarily bound by age, but by behavior. I think nice expression, and also that technology and the digital media has played a very significant influence. I'm going to ask our last round robins of questions to both of you. What are your top two ideas, or if you want a third one, that you want to leave with people who've joined this conversation today on how do we create engagement for this group? And I know that's what our conversation is about, but summarize it and leave the audience with your top two or three ideas that you think they should take back in terms of reflecting or perhaps integrating in the way in which they are managing Gen Z in their own workforces. So Himanshu, you can go first.
For me, the top two would, the first one would be workplace should be like an invitation. It's an invitation to come and invitation.
Yeah.
It's an invitation to come
Yeah.
and join a cause. An organization, it's like a havan.
Hmm.
Everyone is putting some ahuti there. Everyone is sacrificing something. And
Nice.
everyone is making efforts to make it work. It is
Hmm.
not always comfortable, but it's if you believe that the organization is doing something meaningful, then any contribution that you are making uh, it's you are actually making a big thing. You're doing a big thing. Your life itself is bringing value. So that is one way to look at it. And how do we communicate it that way? How do we in a daily when we are engaged in work, how do we remember that when we are engaging with everyone? That is one. The second thing is about mental health, which we didn't touch upon. But somewhere during my own research on when I was doing this research on mindfulness and the way organizations they are looking at mindfulness, somewhere I think there's a discourse where organizations have started thinking that stress is your own problem. I'm just going to give you a pill of mindfulness. You can please take care of it.
Yeah.
And that is not how
Yeah.
organizations should try to
Yeah.
absolve themselves of the responsibilities.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm just going to interject for 1 second, Himanshu. Is that, at most times I have senior leaders telling me, asking me literally, that what do they want us to do about mental health? Like, what are we supposed to do? Your mental health is it's a sum total of all the personal challenges you're having or your personal relationships you're having. I mean, I'm here and I'm working with you. We're here in the context of work. What am I supposed to do about your mental health? So there's that much of a disconnect between why is mental health even come into the conversation in the workplace,
It's a very
you
personal.
know, and the disconnect
yeah,
between the number of hours a person is spending in the workplace, the fact that the relationship with the manager is such a significant determinant of how you feel around work, that there are so many behaviors that get passed off and normalized around you that can create negative emotion in an ongoing basis. And that so significantly, if you're not allowed to bring your authentic self to work, you're first of all struggling all those hours, even while you're attempting to contribute. So I'm just saying, I have been amazed at the disconnect managers feel with the mental health conversation, asking what have we got to do with that in the workplace?
yeah. See,
Hmm.
I feel that now that I'm within the organization and
Hmm.
not just a researcher, I see that organizations are also like a microcosm of society.
Oh, yes.
People are there, and it becomes it's about being able to start a conversation and keep it strong around so that
Hmm.
more and more people can talk about it.
Hmm.
Specifically, I think when I'm talking about mental health,
Hmm.
and I think all the systems and processes that organizations have in place communicate something to employees there.
Hmm.
And if there is a coherent message, one,
Hmm.
there is no confusion then that
Hmm.
our leave policy is saying the same thing which our leaders are saying.
Hmm.
Our, whatever we are saying out there in the public is also being said through different HR policies, is being said through how the organization is structured and so on and so forth. Is it an easy thing to do? No, but I think it's important to stay conscious of how our own organization policies, how our own organization systems and processes are responsible for good or bad mental health.
Hmm.
And rather than saying that, do mindfulness or yoga. Of course,
Yeah.
it's good to do that,
Yeah.
but at the same time, organization should also be conscious about and being responsible about
Yeah.
how their own set of systems and processes are affecting the employees
Oh,
in the
yeah.
company.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah,
behaviors.
but
And if I may
Sujata, if you
add
look at,
behaviors. Yes.
if I can
Yes.
add an objective
Yeah.
angle to this, the senior in age people are not to be blamed.
Hmm.
What can I do about mental health and
Hmm.
mental well-being? Because they've been accustomed to these fads coming in spurts.
Hmm.
Some words come into play, and
Hmm.
then we are all going out to empower them.
Hmm.
10 years ago, 12 years ago, we are going to empower them. But what does empower mean? Nobody knew, not the receiver, not the sender.
Hmm.
Now, this mental health thing, if you look at the last 3 to 4 years after COVID, has come into fashion. Well, I'm all for looking out on mental health, but I don't think we should blame the people who are senior in age to say you don't understand.
No, there's no blame. There's no blame,
There's
Akhil.
no blaming it.
It is, no, there's no blame there. We just
No, but
simply
when they
say,
ask, how can I help?
yeah, because they've not
Lack of answer.
associated, like you're rightly saying, because it's a new, I'm glad we're talking about this, that because it's newer vocabulary, and like you're rightly saying, got popularized only recently in the last couple of years. I think the point Himanshu's saying, and I'm alluding to the same, is that it should have entered our vocabulary many years ago, and it hasn't. And it's only taken all these
By
years to bring
course
it
of
in.
action, by normal way of
And to his point, you know, how you're structured, how you're working, your policies and processes, tiring people out, not responding to them, slowing down people, acting like bottlenecks, you know, basically, the behaviors that people exhibit when they deal with one another, the fact that you feel helpless every now and then when somebody is not responding or not doing what's required to be done so that you can move forward and actually accomplish
very
something.
true. So, yeah, very true.
All of this contributes to mental health. So the
No, I
disconnect is
agree with you, but
interesting.
if you
Yeah,
look at
I'm just
if you
saying the
look at a couple
disconnect
of
is
years back,
interesting. Yeah.
this phenomenon or this idea of mental health not being paid attention to
Hmm.
is true. We never had terminology, but the toxic environment or toxic managers were
Hmm.
reality.
Hmm.
If then they were reality, but now they are reality. And they
Hmm.
create such a toxic environment that no sane people will find it easy to sort of deal with in day-to-day basis, and they go through a stress.
Hmm.
Only difference is there was no avenue for expression earlier.
Hmm.
Now, fortunately, there's some way to express.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I'll agree with you, Ivanshu, that all this yoga and things are all okay, mindfulness is all okay. But at the end of the day, the person who's going through
Yeah.
doesn't think that as a solution, as a panacea.
Yeah.
Idea is that we should have enough communication centers
Hmm.
where some of these issues get surfaced and
Yeah.
not. And that
Yeah.
is where organization can play a role in having a culture which is open to feedback or open to disclosure.
Hmm.
It's not tattling.
Hmm.
Somebody is spoiling the atmosphere, and there are known people in many organizations, there are known bullies.
Hmm. Yeah. And
Who
I
are
think that
here,
I think by
people don't.
bringing up this conversation, we're actually alluding to that all these microaggressions and all these little behaviors are adding up
Come up.
to how people experience work. And that a lot of people feel very helpless, are experiencing low safety in these environments, do not have an avenue to be able to actually address this. So there aren't forums to be able to basically reach out and be able to seek help. And so to the point on the yoga sessions or the breathing sessions or, the hydrating recommendations or the walks that you can take around and all of that all are coping mechanisms. And they're not the solutions to what it is that you're actually talking about. But I think
They're
what
good
is
coping.
intriguing,
They're good
yeah, I
coping.
think what is important is that, we have now started making a connection between how leaders behave, to your point on bullying or whatever are the other behaviors, on how leaders and other people who are significant authority persons behave, and the fact that that has an impact on people's mental health, and that mental health, anyone whose mental health is impacted cannot be their productive best, cannot be do best what they do best, and therefore
This
the rest
takes
of
us
it you
to
will not be able to manifest if you don't care for it enough.
this takes
Yeah.
us to a different stream. Equally important is
Hmm.
how the culture of the organization is built and retained.
That's right. That's right. And that's why so much of a focus on
It is where
culture.
youngsters play a
Yeah.
very big role today than they did earlier.
Yeah.
Because they speak up. And there
Yes.
are forums to speak up. There are focus
Yes.
groups, there are speak up sessions. There is a skip level.
Not all organizations, Akhil. This
Not
is
all,
few and
not
far
all,
between. This
not
is
all.
definitely a work in progress space. Like I was saying, there's even a disconnect between
Again, if you see the
what is happening
demographic,
every day and mental health.
yeah, but
So,
if you see the demographic spread,
hmm,
the ITS tech industry has more youngsters than manufacturing and retail.
yeah,
So there is a big avenue for these youngsters to play a role in shaping the culture of the organization.
yeah,
Because one, they are quite fearless of consequences.
yeah.
Them maintaining that freedom, expression of the personal opinion is more important than getting scared or getting sort of cowed down to say, no, it'll look bad and what will people say. There's
Yes,
one good about them.
yes.
And organizations have to understand that they have to leverage. So it's not all that theoretical because if you see the demographic of these youngsters, they belong to an industry with a large number of concentration of youngsters. And that
Yeah.
is where there's an opportunity to make big change in many ways.
That's right. So we're actually already past the hour. So I'm just going to quickly ask you
So
top two
Mr.
thoughts.
asking me for 2
Yeah,
points.
I'm just coming to you for
That is
that
very
because you already
discriminatory,
you
right,
took it
Himanshu?
you
That is
hijacked
very,
Himanshu's
that is not
answer, Akhil.
inclusive and very discriminatory.
Not at all, not at all. So leave them with the two ideas you want to leave with, but be brief because we are past
And
the
I'll be
hour.
very, I
Yes,
think I will leave 2 thoughts with
yes.
youngsters today. One, use any entry into any organization, good, bad, ugly, as
Hmm.
a learning opportunity. Increase your learning curve while you are there. If you're
Hmm.
not learning good things, learn bad things and not to do it in future. But learn, learn, and learn. Second is to make sure that you are mentoring somebody. If you get a chance to reverse mentor, by all means participate. If you don't
Hmm.
get a chance, because not many organizations believe or have reverse mentoring, mentor somebody. You'll
Hmm.
create a big wave, a very subtle wave of making a change when you start
Yes.
mentoring people and making an impact. So I'll be brief.
Right. Right. So I think this is lovely actually. Our conversation's gone to so many places of what organizations can start doing to integrate this absolutely fabulous talent pool. These are people who are mentally globalized through the access they've had through technology. They're technology savvy or at least interested in being able to see how technology is used to be able to enhance the experience of work. I think this is a group that is calling out loud for being able to create more sensitive workplaces that actually support human beings, are human centric, and actually enable human beings to be able to deliver their best within the organization. To the point on mentoring that we made here, that's such a great opportunity to be able to learn, and we need to create formal processes around this if they can't happen informally. But informal mentoring should happen constantly within the organization, making sure we're giving these people attention to understand what they're good at, what they need support at. Yeah, there's some Shraddha Singh can be involved them in board and leadership meetings. And I must tell you here again, Shraddha, that way back we had shadow boards and we were part of it. And I don't know why some of these good practices have gotten
Going away,
discontinued.
yeah.
It's amazing it's gotten discontinued because these are such smart people who are coming into the workplace and they must get the opportunity to be able to influence through their thinking and infuse the modernity that organizations are talking about. You can actually do that if you give these people voice and not just leave them at entry level like we did in the past, imagining they're just another young group of people who've come into the organization. So opportunities galore here. And I'm so glad we spoke about connecting and then leading with this very talented workforce. And we're going to encourage you to be able to be more sensitive, have a fresh pair of eyes in terms of looking at this talent. I think a big one we spoke about the last time, which is to be able to explain to them what they're signing up for. So even in terms of the roles that you're offering, more clarity in terms of what these roles are, large part of the work around joining in to be able to contribute in a meaningful manner, setting themselves up to succeed. There was one slide we used to use when we had orientations for young people, joining the organization. We'd always say that, if you're really smart, why don't you change us? Right. And so I'm going to say that to everyone who is trying to integrate Gen Z, which is allow them to come in and change you. And I think that create the environment, create the momentum for change, let them become those catalysts that actually enable change within the organization. So all the best, everyone. Thank you for attending this.